Right now, the opening ceremony is starting for the newest edition of the High Line. It is called the Spur, and it is the last section of the original blueprint of the project. It's located at 10th Avenue and 30th Street. Let's watch as the newest section is opened.
Save our Spur shirts. You couldn't. You couldn't walk through West Chelsea without seeing red Save Our Spur shirts in those days. And look what we did. We did it. We saved the Spur. And we're here today celebrating the opening of this amazing new feature of the High Line and hosting a work of art that is as monumental and full of meaning as we could have imagined. Simone Lee's Brick House is exactly what we hoped the Spur could become. I can't wait to see what other magic the High Line staff produces here in this space, which we like to think of as our public square. There's so many people who helped make this happen. I want to acknowledge our former board chairs, each of whom had a hand in this particular space. Phil Ahrens, who was committed from day one to saving the entire High Line. John Alschuler, who really saved the Spur and led the effort to save the Spur. And Katie Marin, who, under whose leadership we created the Plinth program and funded its first 3 years. I also want to thank Sue, with whom I'm honored to serve. And also, I think it's important to thank our entire board of directors. You know, raising the $18 million a year that it takes to maintain the High Line at the standard to which we've all become accustomed is no easy feat. It's hard work. And our board members work very hard to do that. So thank you to all of you who are here today. I look forward to many successful years to come.
Now please welcome High Line co-founder Joshua David.
Good morning. How wonderful it is to be right here on such a beautiful and hopeful day with all of you. And I'm especially honored that Speaker Corey Johnson and Borough President Gale Brewer have joined us this morning. We're so grateful for all the support that you give the High Line. When I first meet people and tell them a little bit about the High Line and the place it occupies in my life, they often ask me, what's your favorite part of it? There are many great places on the High Line, but it would be hard to pick any favorite part other than this incredible Spur, especially with the awesome artwork that Simone Lee has created for its debut. Magnificent. Thanks are due to all the people who made the Spur possible, those who funded the studies that backed our case to protect it, our stellar design team who developed so many thrilling ideas for the space, the activists who loyally came to all of our Save the Spur hearings and events. There were heroic defenders who fought for this Spur with exceptional passion and brilliance, like Amanda Burden and John Alschuler, and Robert Hammond, who directed our Save the Spur campaign with the mastery we've all come to admire and depend on. That said, as spectacular and meaningful as this Spur may be, I cannot say it's my favorite part of the High Line, because my favorite part of the High Line is not a place in the park, but rather the people who have joined to make every part of it possible. How lucky we all are to have worked together to create and care for such an extraordinary place. Every time I set foot here, all I can think of is you, the people who have come together time and time again to make sure the High Line is the best it can possibly be. I'm grateful that Robbie, who's going to follow me, is going to do a comprehensive list of thank yous, so that allows me to call out just a few special champions. Like the early adopters, our first board, volunteers, and staff, the people who could have said, that's the craziest idea I've ever heard, but who instead said, how can I help make this happen? Our 4 amazing board chairs, Phil, John, Katie, and Mario, each the perfect leader for the moment at which they took the helm. The three mayors who've led the city during our 2 decades of work, today's Mayor Bill de Blasio and his team, and for 12 years prior, the Highline's hero, Mayor Michael Bloomberg and his team, including Patty Harris, Dan Doctoroff, Amanda Burden, Nanette Smith, Adrian Benepe, and many others. Even the mayor who was our early legendary antagonist, Rudy Giuliani, then as now, he was such an energizing adversary. Our supporters became triply invigorated fighting against him. We've been blessed with the support of 3 tremendous city council leaders, Speaker Johnson, thank you again, Christine Quinn, and special thanks go to Gifford Miller. As a young speaker, he staked so much of his political capital on the Highline, which gave us the early strength we needed to succeed. We've been lucky to have such generous philanthropic supporters like the Diller von Furstenberg family, who've demonstrated unparalleled leadership and generosity, and our first major backers, the endlessly loyal Wendy Keyes and Donald Pells. We miss Donald very much, who taught us that it wasn't enough to invest in the physical plant of the Highline, that you had to invest in the people and the organization driving the project forward. Because for all its steel, concrete, and plantings, the ethos of this place has been defined by the people who created it, makers of beauty and defenders of justice. The kind of artist who spends a year photographing the Highline in solitude, as Joel Sternfeld did in 2000, and in doing so changes history. The kind of visionary who might dream up the mile-long opera, as Liz Diller did. The kind of elected leader who, like Jerry Nadler, after decades spent fighting for the Highline, now battles to defend our constitutional balance of power. In troubling times, it restores one's sense of optimism to be part of such a remarkable group. I'm deeply grateful to all of you for what you've each done to make the Highline possible, and for some 20 years now, being such good friends to Robbie and to me. Thank you very much.
So I've been thinking about what I would say at this event for a long time, literally years, and I sort of envisioned it would be some very inspiring words, but I realized always Josh was always the eloquent one. I was just more I realized enthusiasm can paper over a lot of preparedness or smart remarks, and I realized I do need to do a lot of thanks, and I realized there's really nothing I could say that is more important than the gratitude I think we all have for all of you that have made this possible. Because what does it take to build an incredible public space on a rusty, abandoned rail line? It takes a lot of different communities that put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. And so I want to go through some of those communities. I'm going to ask you to save your applause until the end. First, it takes a visionary and hardworking board, which has already been mentioned, but I just have to say again, thank you to Mario and Sue for leading us right now, and to John, Katie, and Phil, and want to call out John just in that his passion as board chair was really making sure this spot we're standing on was saved. Just less than 10 years ago, I sort of thought we might lose this piece that we're standing on, so thank you, John. I have to thank Josh, my co-founder in this. Literally 20 years ago, this summer, we met about 4 blocks from here at a community room. We've never met each other at Penn South, and I was like, why don't you start it? And he said, no, you should start it. And we exchanged business cards, and I don't think either one of us could imagine we'd be here 20 years later. And Josh touched on this, but this is a true public partnership with the city, a public-private partnership. So thank you to Mayor de Blasio and his administration, Deputy Mayor Vicky Beam, and former Deputy Mayor Alicia Glenn. A big, big thanks to Commissioner Mitchell Silver in New York City Parks and Recreation. You're going to hear from him later. But he really this is what makes his staff and him have made this a true public-private partnership and work. All the stuff you really don't see making that happen. Thanks to the New York Economic Development Corporation for helping build this, and of course to City Planning and the City Planning Commission, and thank you to all of their staff, many who have been working on this for almost 18 years and are here today. Thank you to my long-term friend and advocate and fighter for this, Council Speaker Corey Johnson, who represents this district and has been with us since the very beginning. And he's backing a lot of the things you don't see and that aren't that sexy to back, like helping maintain this. His support has contributed to the growth of our teen program, our educational partnerships, and so much more. And we've really grown with him over the years. I think we were both younger when we started out onto this, and excited to see what he does next. And thanks to his staff and all the other city council members that have supported this. And our partnership with the city spans almost 20 years. I love that Josh brought up Mayor Giuliani, because someone, you just love to hate. But none of this would have been possible without former Mayor Michael Bloomberg and members of his administration, who Josh mentioned. I want to mention again former Speaker Kristen Quinn, but especially Gifford Miller, one of the really unsung heroes of this project. Thank you, Gifford, who, again, we would not be here without Gifford, and members of their administrations. And all this wouldn't have happened also without the partnerships with the neighborhoods that this runs through and the community boards that represent them. Community boards 2 and 4 were also with us throughout, step by step. Manhattan Borough President Gale Brewer, and before that was in the council, who's been an ongoing advocate and tireless supporter of this, as well as so many other amazing causes. And so if you're a neighbor here or a member of the community board, we thank you. It also takes the support from our state and federal officials, U.S. Senator Charles Schumer, Kristen Gillibrand, U.S. Representative Jerry Nadler, Governor Andrew Cuomo, State Senator Brad Hoylman, thank you, Brad, Assembly Member Richard Gottfried, also with us since the beginning, Assembly Member Deborah Glick. All have played important roles of helping us get here, as well as their staff, who a lot of them have been with us the entire time. I want to give a huge thanks to the Plinth Committee for actually helping pay for this. Shelley Fox Aarons, Fairfax Dorn, Andrew Hall, Hermina Heller, Tom Hill, Dorothy Lichtenstein, Donald Mullen, and Mario Palumbo. And I want to thank our funders, the Coach Foundation, which this amazing passage is named for, and you're going to hear from them in a minute. But Coach was here before any of us were thinking about this. Their headquarters was a few blocks away and now is right above us. I want to thank TD Bank for underwriting all of our green efforts, which are so important to us and to you. Thanks to all of our corporate and foundation and real estate funders. Thank you to Related. We're excited to have you as our neighbor, along with Hudson Yards. Speaking, if you're interested, we have 100 vessel tickets afterwards. Come see us afterwards if you want to go up. And if you've ever donated to the Highline or one of our almost 10,000 members, thank you. You help us raise nearly our entire budget for operating the Highline. And for the Highline to be as special today, it takes the contribution of extraordinary artists. For the stunning sculpture brick house, thank you, Simone Lee, for your vision, and the Stratton Sculpture Studio, who I know was a real partner in building this. Thank you, Claudia Rankine, who's already contributed one of my first favorite pieces of the Highline, the Mile Long Opera, but now this gorgeous piece, We Are Here. And thank you to Toshi Reagan and her collaborators for breaking in the Spur with its very first performance. And all of the artists, which are literally 100, over half of them are women, most are women, from I think over 50 countries that have contributed pieces to the Highline over the years. And finally, maybe most importantly, I want to thank the other Highline staff. And none of this would be possible without them. And for leading our planning department, Adam Ganzer and Patrick Azari, who really put so much into making this, opening this. Cecilia Amani, God bless you for all that you do for us and the entire Highline art team. for bringing this to life and all the other art that we do. And just for all that staff that make, that really what make the Highline possible. It's the backbone of the Highline, keeping it clean and beautiful every day. Also, we have hundreds of volunteers that come out when it's hot, come out when it's raining, and a lot of them are here tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think, I hope all of us are really proud of this remarkable day. I think we've all built something extraordinary that's bigger than all of us. And, this is our anniversary year, 10 years since it's open, 20 years since we started this. But to me, it's really about looking forward, because I think our work is really just beginning, and we need to look ahead to 10 years, 50 years, 100 years. And I think we really have to, all of us, have to renew our commitment to this space. And remember that that's our job as creators of the Highline, to remain its curated, committed stewards, and that we not only maintain it, that we keep it from getting worse or falling into disrepair, but that our real objective is to keep getting better, to keep doing amazing things like this and keep sort of exceeding expectations. So I want everyone here to stand and give everyone a round of applause, including my amazing partner, Dan, and my baby, Rigsby. So thank you all to all of you for making this possible.
Please welcome the Honorable Corey Johnson, our council member and Speaker of the New York City Council.
Good morning. What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. It is so amazing to be here with you this morning, and I can't say it better than Joshua and Robert said, but I want to thank them for their tremendous leadership and vision and advocacy, and for their partnership, because what the public sees on a near daily basis, what international visitors see, what neighborhood residents see on the High Line is incredible, but what a lot of people don't see is the amount of time and energy and hard work that the team at the Highline puts in every day on some programs that don't get a lot of headlines, but that are so important to the local community. The amount of time I have spent with Robert and Joshua and the board and the staff on the Highline Teens program, or on setting up programs for PS33 or PS11 or PS41 or PS3, or working on the horticulture program for young people. These are all programs that, even though the Highline has become an international symbol of what is possible, the Highline has never strayed from its roots of being integrated in the local community and caring deeply about that in a really significant way, in a committed way, in a heartfelt way, in a way where they put their money where their mouth is, and in a way that people don't cover or see all the time, but it's so important for the local community. And I'm really proud of the partnership that we have together in investing in the local community and doing that work. I'm not going to thank all the amazing people that are here today, but I do want to say that in a year and a half as being Speaker of the City Council, you have a tight affinity to other people that served in this job, and someone who I knew when I was much younger, and he was much younger, and he was Speaker. He's been thanked a lot, but we wouldn't be standing here today without him. I want to give a really big round of applause to Gifford Miller, the former Speaker of the New York City Council. No one knew if the Spur was going to be saved, and no one knew if Section 3 of the High Line was going to be saved. It wasn't a given, and because of the board, because of the volunteers, because of the local community, because of my amazing colleague in government, Borough President Gale Brewer, because of everyone who's here today, we're able to stand here and celebrate this incredibly special and important day. I am in awe of Simone Lee. I feel like I'm fangirling a little bit up here, standing in front of her incredible sculpture. To be here on the Spur, looking up 10th Avenue and looking down 10th Avenue in front of this incredibly important piece of art, which is about black beauty and black female beauty, is just so important for our city. So I will end with this. New York City is the greatest city in the world. We are the greatest city in the world. We gave the world J-Lo and Spike Lee. We are the home of the lemon ice king of Corona. Not that far from here, in New York Harbor, the Statue of Liberty stands with a torch as a beacon for asylum seekers and immigrants and refugees from all over the world. New York City, 38% of New Yorkers who are currently living here were not born in the United States of America. We are the city that built the Empire State Building in less than 2 years, and we are now the city, we've been this way for a while, but we are now the city that gave the world the High Line, the Spur, and Simone Lee's Brick House. Let's keep being the greatest city in the world. Thank you all very much. Congratulations.
Please welcome the Honorable Gale Brewer, our Manhattan Borough President.
So good morning. It's very hard to follow all of those folks. It is a beautiful day to be on the High Line, and it is such a New York story. This day is decades in the making. As we all know, 20 years since Friends of the High Line started with the idea to save this amazing railroad structure, and 10 years since the first section of the High Line opened. But since I'm like the sort of living legend old people of elected officials, I will tell you that I was here with Peter Oblitz in 1984. He was a gadfly. He has a symbol, a plaque on the High Line now. But I was working for then Council Member Ruth Messinger. And I know he bugged the living daylights out of us about this friggin' railroad thing. He lived right here, according to the New York Times, but I remember he lived at the Dorchester on 68th Street and Broadway. He must have moved uptown, because as we were, of course, representing him on 30th Street, we did not. But Ruth's district went from 54th Street north, and he never stopped calling. But look at the result. So in addition to thanking the amazing Joshua and Robert and Mario and John, I want to make sure that Peter gets his recognition. May he rest in peace, because he was a true visionary. I also want to thank Maritza Kamara, who does a lot of the outreach for the High Line, because I am known to show up at every little tiny event, as many of you know, and so does she. And so you'll be at this little tiny block party, and there's a High Line table with young people drawing and learning about all of the horticulture, amazing things about the High Line and our city. That's a lot of work, and I want to thank her very much, because sometimes she doesn't get thanked, and I really appreciate it. I also want to thank her and the amazing staff, because you have been the leaders in collaboration with the other arts institutions, be it the Whitney or all the smaller ones in this part of Manhattan. And that makes a big difference, that all of the arts institutions working together, all the volunteers of the arts institutions working together, all thanks to the High Line. That's a big role, and it's important, and I thank you for that, because I go to those events too, so I know about them. So this is an example where the magic can happen when communities organize and work in partnership with city government. Talk about city government. I was in the city council when Gifford was speaker. And all of a sudden, I remember him talking something about Princeton and Gifford and money and High Line. Thank you, Gifford. I remember. And he was a great speaker. Sometimes we agreed, sometimes we didn't agree, but certainly on the High Line, we definitely agreed. It is now a gathering spot, a place to see this amazing art. Congratulations, Madam Artist. You are unbelievable. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. People can relax. They do that, and they have they see the city streets, F-R-E-E, and that's the other great thing about the vessel. So thank you for having those tickets. Too many times as New Yorkers or as visitors, we have to pay to see our city, but not here at the High Line. And that, to me, is incredibly important. 500 plant species along the Greenway, plants that are important to the city, some of them right here. That's also a very wonderful aspect of the High Line. So with all of the allocations, certainly we have allocated some money. I wish we could do more, but we have a big borough. But we believe in open space. We allocate funding for certainly the hydroponics, the roof gardens, the community gardens, and this is another level of all that amazing open space. Green space is really precious on our island. And so we're so happy to see this last section of the High Line, this amazing spur, extend the green streak in this amazing urban landscape. So congratulations to everyone who made today possible. Thank you for making our city a bigger and better place and happier and healthier. And I know that all the restaurants and all of the individuals who have businesses in the area are also really, really pleased because you have made their life an economic development haven also, and that's important to our city. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Ms. Wendy Pastor, Chief of Staff for our Assembly Member Richard Gottfried.
Thank you. Obviously, the Assembly member, I'm sure, would much rather be here. Not that he doesn't love what he's doing in Albany, but it's a lot prettier here today than it is up there. You are in Assembly Member Godfrey's district, and we've often said that, you know, Times Square is the center of the world and the center of the district, but we know that this is really the new center of New York. And this could not have happened, obviously, without the vision of the founders, the community, and the great creativity of the architects. When people talked about the High Line originally, as has been said before, everyone thought that was just ridiculous and preposterous. But Josh and Rob just kept going and very quickly amassed a huge collection of very strong and good supporters. And when I say good supporters, I don't just mean in their action, but also in their deeds and their pockets. And it really helped, and it did bring the rest of us along rather quickly. And as preposterous as the High Line seemed, keeping the spur was not popular either. But the community rallied, the elected officials rallied, the High Line folks rallied, and sure enough, when you have Diller, Scafidio, and Renfro on the team, it doesn't seem like such a hard idea to be able to incorporate the spur in the development. And the whole concept of what we're experiencing today is the great marriage, the great creativity and bringing together of the community effort, elected officials, the High Line team, and the developers, and what great things and spectacular things like the spur can happen. Thank you very much.
Please welcome the Honorable Mitchell Silver, our NYC Parks Commissioner.
On behalf of Mayor Bill de Blasio, I bring you greetings. Good morning, and it's so great to be with you today for the opening of the Spur. From all of us in New York City Parks, I want to salute the co-founders, Robert and Joshua, for your vision, and the entire Friends of the High Line organization for your hard work that they put into the design to build the Spur, and I also want to thank you for our years of partnership. As you travel around the country, cities are revitalizing themselves through public space. Industrial, unloved spaces are now being converted to some of the most spectacular public spaces in their city. Just think about New York City, Brooklyn Bridge Park, Hunters Point South, Riverside South, and now the High Line. These industrial spaces are now being healed and returned to the public as incredible public spaces. And so I like to tell audiences wherever I travel how much I love the High Line. The planner in me loves the unique utilization of this public space. And it's just the three-dimensional aspect of it. Now, people want to copy the High Line. They can't, because the High Line is in New York City in the most iconic location on the west side of Manhattan. And each time you go there, the sun, the views, the wind, the garden gives you a special experience that is three-dimensional that you can't experience in any normal park. As commissioner of the Parks Department and a park lover, I love to tell people to come and visit. I was with some delegation from Australia, and of course the first park they wanted to visit was the High Line. So it is just that experience that the visitors enjoy. They love the experience of different views, the incredible garden, the amazing art, and the incredible and diverse programming, as the speaker mentioned. We really enjoy the fact how they're diverse. They want to reach out to the community, and I also want to thank the Friends of the High Line. You may not know this, but they also help and support other underserved parks throughout New York City, and for that they deserve a round of applause. I too want to thank Simone Lee, All of us are absolutely in love with your sculpture and work of art. I'm a runner, and all my friends have been dying to run down this avenue, come up over here, and just take a photograph of this incredible public space. Thank you for your gift of New York City. It truly is going to be iconic and memorable for generations to come. Again, I congratulate you for this auspicious occasion, and I welcome you to this public space. I often say that people may eat and sleep in their apartment, but they live in public space. And thank you, Friends of the High Line, for bringing this new, incredible public space for people to enjoy. Thank you.
There's also been a group that has been with us almost the entire time on this journey, and it's our design team. They were first selected back in 2004. And, you know, I think so much of what we love about the High Line was brought to them. They didn't just preserve it exactly as it was, but brought this new magic to it. So, and you're going to hear from the leaders, but just wanted to acknowledge James Corner Field Operations, Dillers Cafidio Renfro, and Pete Uldoff. Not just for the vision of the whole island, but for the Spur. This was actually the hardest part to design, and we had probably the most designs of this. And I want to thank our engineering team, Bureau Happold, our lighting designer, Observatoire. My favorite time up here is at night, definitely. Our graphic design team, Pentagram, that designed our original logo literally 20 years ago. And our construction manager, Siami. So now I think Jem Corner, Rick Scafidio, with Dillers Cafidio and Renfro.
We've been watching the opening ceremony for the newest section of the High Line called the Spur. It's located at 10th Avenue and 30th Street, features the largest lush garden in the park. It also features the plinth, which will showcase artwork there. The Spur officially opens to the public tomorrow.